I don't know how we're going to live up to our last episode, to be honest.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I could try and do an impersonation of Adam or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're handsome enough or funny enough.
Yeah. Oh, I don't look like Mr. Beast enough.
No, it'll be like the Temu version of Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We're, of course, referring to our last episode where we had a special guest on. First time we ever had a guest, Adam Faulkner. It was fun, actually. I enjoyed it. It was an hour-long episode, which is a bumper episode for us. And it felt like we could have stayed on for 2 hours. Whether anyone would have listened to 2 hours is another thing, but...
Yeah, I think it was all killer, no filler. So you don't mind going on for an hour when it's all good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, it was really good. And you're right, Jamie. It's weird just being us two again now, which is silly because that's how we've done the every other episode. But also, at least we don't have to navigate the tech issues that we encountered with 3 people on the pod, which kind of turned everything into carnage.
It did. We aren't the kind of people that are kind of built for that kind of stuff, to be honest. We'd kind of just turn up and hope for the best, and then figure.
Remember when we did that LinkedIn Live, and then
the LinkedIn Live that wasn't.
Realised like 3 minutes before that LinkedIn doesn't have like its own native streaming software,
and that we needed something like Riverside or Restream or something to be able to do it. So that was fun.
So instead we did an impromptu Google Meet with about 8 people, which actually was really good.
Yeah, it was fine, wasn't it? It worked out all right. Just style it out, I think, and that's one of the messages, I think, from Adam as well.
And it's actually going to be one of the messages in today's podcast.
Okay, nice. What a good segue.
Hey, that was good, wasn't it? It was almost like we scripted it.
Yeah. Okay, look, let's make this a good one. Let's make it short. Let's make it snappy. What are we going to talk about today?
So, as listeners will already know, we're going to talk about how to style out a mistake that you've sent in an email. Yeah. So that's probably not what you'll title it, Jamie. I don't know if that's clickbaity enough for you, and I know that you love the word "must" in your titles, and I didn't manage to include it there. But it's going to be about, we at some point, whether you've done this in a newsletter or whether it's just an email to a colleague or a client or whatever, you've definitely made a mistake in an email and sent it. Even if you don't know that you've made a mistake, you definitely have made a mistake, I'm afraid to tell you. And of course, the problem with email is that unlike a blog or a social media post, we can't just delete it or edit it once it's been published. It's out into the ether forever. And we're then faced with a problem of, okay, do we send a follow-up email? Do we just ignore it and hope that people don't realize? What's the best play? What should you be including in a follow-up email if that's the route you decide to take? And that's what we're going to be covering on today's episode.
Okay, nice. Yeah, we'll workshop the title for this episode a little bit. I do like a must.
Yes.
They call me Elon Must.
Only because you're musty. You have a must to you.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Okay, fine. Okay, an email is really unique in that sense, right? Even if we went back to like before email and you sent a letter to someone, you still have a chance that you could probably chase that letter down before it gets, or like intercept the postman. When it comes to emails, like, there's no chance. Like, what are you going to
do? The only thing I can think of now is you desperately trying to intercept the postman, which, like, let's do a separate podcast about your tactics around how you might do that.
Intercept the postman.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It's illegal. It's illegal, right, to mess around with post.
Yes.
Does that count if it's your own letter?
Oh, you mean if you intercept it before it arrives at the thing that you? Yeah, I don't know, Joe. I'm not au fait with the legal nuances of the Royal Mail, but
no. Okay.
Yeah.
But you are au fait with the nuances of how to recover from making a mistake in a newsletter.
Another top segue.
There. Okay, so let's paint a scenario then. A scenario which we've found ourselves in, here at the Inbox Club. Not recently, I would say, but you write a newsletter and you create a first name merge tag. And so you want the email to open with "hey" and whatever the first name of the recipient is. And you mess that merge tag up, and it either has the same name for everyone, or it's basically not worked correctly, and it's made you look foolish, or at least you feel foolish having sent it.
Yeah.
So what talk me through the 7 stages of grief when it comes to dealing with that scenario?
Yeah, it definitely starts with the heart palpitations when
Yeah,
it's the same feeling, I would say. And again, most listeners will be able to relate to this. And this is not a professional feeling. This is a person. This is a feeling that you get in your personal life when you send a text to someone that you're not meant to, and it's about that person, right? So, or or you just send, like, you're sexting someone and you like accidentally send it to your dad or something, like
I remember. I
that.
remember when he did that.
I meant to send it to you,
Yeah,
but it's so
exactly.
embarrassing.
I was left hanging. I was like, okay, there's no reply coming. Meanwhile, Simon's getting a text.
Pork chop getting
Oh
getting
yeah,
the DMs.
that's the nickname we came up on this podcast for James's dad is Pork
Yeah,
Chop.
that's a
He
callback for the
doesn't.
die-hard fans.
He doesn't listen, does he?
No, no. Along with most of the world.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so you have that kind of like pit of the stomach feeling, like, oh God, what have I just done? Like this has gone out to however many people. And again, like this feeling will be relatable whether you're sending a newsletter to, tens of thousands or people, a couple of hundred or people, or just one email to someone who like shouldn't have seen what you've just sent. And so, I think the feeling of dread doesn't scale with the number of recipients. There is just there is a feeling of dread, and it's inevitable regardless of how big your list is. Um, yeah, the example that you just used, Jamie, is one that actually happened to us. It was over a year ago now. It's quite embarrassing on the face of it, because we are an email marketing agency. Mistakes are the most human thing in the world, though. And so I guess the moral of the story here is we're not going to tell you how to avoid mistakes in the first place. And Jamie, maybe one day we'll do an episode about proofing your email and the various software you can use to ensure this happens as infrequently as possible.
That sounds thrilling. Go
I know that really, yeah, look out for that one.
on. Yeah.
Instead, we're going to talk to you about, like we said, how to style out. And I think that's the key thing, as an email marketing agency, there's nothing, it's almost a practice of stoicism here. There's a lot of mindfulness lessons to be learned in email marketing because of the finality of email, because of the fact it's been sent and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to find some resolve, and you have to kind of tell yourself, okay, what's done is done. There is no changing the past. All I can do now is what's best in the present and for the future. And so that's what we did for this particular client. It was on behalf of a client. It wasn't one of our own projects, which makes it all the worse. The question then became, okay, this is done. It's shit that it's happened, but it has happened. Where is the opportunity here? And the word opportunity is important, and it'll come up again in this podcast. Where is the opportunity? How can we turn this into a win? And so, Jamie, you and I gravitated towards humor. I nearly said it Norfolk then, humor. We gravitated to humor in order to, and that was consistent with the tone of the newsletters we were sending on behalf of this client anyway. And so in this particular instance, I'd called everyone James in the email. And I sent a follow-up about half an hour later that said something along the lines of, there's a good chance that you're probably not called James. If you do happen to be called James, then please ignore this apology email. And importantly, I then added a bit of extra bonus value into that apology that apology email as well. So I made the apology, like I wasn't groveling or anything like that. I think there's a tendency to really over exaggerate the error. Like most people just don't care. And wouldn't it be great if people cared so much about your newsletters that they felt like offended at an error? The reality is, I think first and foremost, companies have a tendency to really overestimate how important people consider their emails. And so they think, oh my God, this is catastrophic. And actually, like, remember that most people are just going about their day and they probably didn't notice. And if they did, like, it's not the sort of thing that's going to bother them beyond like a second. And so, don't send a follow-up email that's like super grovelly. keep it light, and offer some extra value. Turn it into like a bonus. Be like, by the way, like, you know, as by means of you know, to show you how sorry I am, here's this extra piece of content or this free thing that I wasn't going to give away and I am now. And the remarkable thing is, Jamie, is that in every apology email that we've ever sent, whether it's our own projects or on behalf of a client, luckily the client ones are very infrequent. We've had the biggest open rates, the biggest click rates, the biggest response, the most positive response.
Yeah, I mean it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? But it's so true in almost every instance.
Yeah.
If not every instance, for us, it's resulted, and people, because people like it. It's like, you know, why you drive slowly past a car crash. You know, it's people like that kind of thing. It's like, oh, okay, these guys are human. That, you know, and it comes across as more authentic. And actually, I would wager that those apology emails that you send afterwards, or at least those I don't want to use apology email, maybe like the recovery email that you send afterwards. I would hazard a guess that that email shows the most humanity that you've ever shown in any of your email marketing.
Yes.
And there's something around that, I think, that would lead that to perform better.
Yeah, it forces you. It forces you to show personality because you are acknowledging a fault. So you're in quite a vulnerable state when you're sending those. And of course, you don't want to come, like I've said, you don't want to come across as like too. I think it's generally a mistake, depending on the error that you've made. It's generally a mistake to be like too earnest about this sort of thing because, like I say, it comes off as self-aggrandizement, like people really care about your emails, which they just don't.
Yeah.
But you're still vulnerable, and you know you're still owning a mistake in front of, you know, potentially thousands of people, and people tend to love that. The other thing, of course, Jamie, is that, you know, we generally steer away from subject line hacking, but you get an email that says we need to apologize ... and see how many you know, and see whether you can resist opening that. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's opening that email, right? Because even if they haven't opened the first email. And that's the funny thing, is that what happens is that once you send a recovery email, you then see the open rate of the original email go up because people want the reference point. They're like, oh, what was the mistake? You know,
Yeah.
they want to go and find it.
And this leads, I know this is something that you mentioned. We actually talked about what we were going to talk about in this episode before we pressed record, which is
Very unusual
for us.
Yeah.
But something that you did mention was, you know, okay, we have just acknowledged the fact that sending a recovery email does get really high engagement, and that it also impacts the engagement of the original email. So the question that we have to then ask ourselves here, if the goal for us is to get high email engagement, should we be doing this stuff on purpose?
I would make an argument that yes. You kind of just spoiled my hot take, but
Yeah,
I think it's worth discussing in the meat of the episode because I think there's a compelling argument that if you're an email marketer, if you're the person responsible for email marketing at your company, you should factor in, you should schedule an intentional mistake email once a year. Now, this is quite controversial, I suppose, and I think it's important to stress that the mistake I'm referring to here is something fun, like calling everyone by the same name, or you know, we've seen mistakes used as a marketing ploy as well. Like when I think it was McDonald's leaked their new sandwich in like an app push notification that was like test blah, like chicken mayo, and everyone was like, oh my god, I've just been sent this leak, and it turned out it was completely intentional and like got the most impressions their marketing campaign has ever had through the app or whatever it was. So I would say tread carefully in this department. It's you know, we have to be careful. One side of this coin, Jamie, that we haven't discussed yet is like a serious mistake. For example, if you accidentally email a list of people that haven't given you permission to email them, or if you quite a famous one is if you've opted out for, say, Mother's Day communications, and then you receive an email about Mother's Day. So where permissions and preferences are concerned, the mistakes can suddenly become quite serious, and data breaches are possible, and there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. Your follow-up email obviously needs to be very, very different if you've done something that could genuinely upset someone or compromise their data, or any of that serious stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think what we need to do then is match the gravity of our response with the gravity of the mistake. And because like you say, you said at the start, we have this this habit as human beings to catastrophize. Am I saying that? Catastrophize? Is that right?
Yeah,
Just
that's right.
catastrophize things.
Catastrophize, yeah.
When actually, no, like you said, no one cares. If it's just like a first name mishap, or a spelling mistake in the subject line, or a link doesn't work, okay, it's not the end of the world. No one's died, and actually now you've got a great opportunity to follow up and get more engagement. But when it's more serious, I think we have to like take that breath. And sometimes when I've made a mistake with in a newsletter or something, I've gone to James and said, James, how should I handle this? Because he's someone that's detached from the situation. He's not the one that's made the mistake, and so he can make come up with a very leveled response to how we should handle that situation. So you could rely on a third party to help you there. But yeah, I think match the gravity of your response with the gravity of the mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely way of putting it. And yeah, again, to hark back to the stoicism point, like nothing can be changed once it's done. And I think like you're so right to say, like, go to someone else in your company. It's a horrible moment to have to say, look, I've messed up. But go to someone else in your company, and you would be amazed at how having that outsider perspective can really contextualize the gravity of the error that you've made. And usually it's not nearly as serious as you might fear it is. But yeah, going back to what we were saying, with the intentional mistake email, look, the facts are that mistake emails are, if it's a light mistake and can be responded to with a light follow-up email, it's probably going to be your most opened email of the year. It's going to be your biggest opportunity to express yourself and express your brand's personality and have some fun with it. It almost acts as a re-engagement campaign, because the subject line you choose will be opened by more people, and they're likely to go back to the email that you made the mistake on. And so it's a way of spotlighting the stuff that you were sending in the original email as well. It's a way of regaining subscribers that maybe have lapsed or ignored your emails up until this point. And finally, in the follow-up email itself, we can include another CTA. So let's say, for example, it is a broken link. Well, now we're able to shine a spotlight only on that fixed link and say, here's the actual link. Here's your 10% off discount. Sorry, it's working now. Or, here's the jacuzzi we're selling that's now 50% off. It's an amazing way of generating extra eyes on whatever it is that you're trying to push. It doesn't need to be a broken link. It can just be, here's this free resource that we didn't give away in the last email, but we're going to here as a way of kind of squaring things off with you. And yeah, you get incredible engagement rates. Why not? If you're an email marketer, these are the sorts of targets that you need to be hitting, right? This is exactly what you want. This is what you dream of. These one-off campaigns that are going to get excellent engagement. Why not schedule it in? As long as it doesn't make the company look disorganized or disheveled or completely like they've lost the plot. I think once a year, by the time you do you do your one in 2025, people have forgotten the one from last year.
Yeah, I like that. I think, we don't want to milk it and start doing these every week, because then you just look stupid. Okay, nice. I do want to go back to the more serious one, because I think I would like to just talk about how do you handle a more serious error? Because if we say like the Mother's Day or Father's Day one, for example, which is a famous example, we accidentally send a Mother's Day promotional email to someone who's opted out to receive a Mother's Day emails. Like, what do you do then? Do you like send a follow up and say, sorry, we forgot you don't have a mum? So, like, how do you like handle that situation? Because like, do we just keep digging a hole there? Like, what?
Yeah, I think what's important is that you don't treat it as the opportunity that you would treat a light follow-up email.
Yeah.
So I think I would absolutely encourage marketers to be opportunistic in a normal follow-up. I think the worst thing you can do is be opportunistic in an instance like that. So your follow, yes, I think you should send a follow-up email first and foremost. There are some mistakes where perhaps a follow-up email isn't required and actually can worsen the situation. I would say that something like sending to a list that shouldn't have received an email in the first place is not one of those situations. I think that's serious enough that they deserve a follow-up email. Absolutely do not sell anything. I think just be sincere, be honest, apologize, and I suppose just be as human as you possibly can. I would say this is a principle that we talk about a lot on this podcast. Talk to an audience of one, and it's particularly for something important and kind of sentimental, like the example that you gave, Jamie. I think it's particularly important that you are talking to an audience of one, and almost imagine as though you're sat across a table from them. Like, what are the sorts of things that you might say? You're not going to say sorry, you don't have a mum. You're gonna say that you shouldn't have received that email. I made a huge mistake. I also think using the first person can be quite pertinent here as well. Businesses will lean towards saying we. And I understand that sometimes, if it's a junior in your company who's sending the mistake in the first instance, there might be a temptation to deflect away from that person and to make it more about a company-wide error, which is fair enough. But I think there is, if we are ultimately trying to remind the person through our apology that we are a human, then speaking from the corporate voice just doesn't do that. And I think it comes across in the wrong way. So I think even if you are sending a follow-up email on behalf of a intern at your company or whoever it might have been who made the error in the first place, say, I'm the CEO here. This comes down to me. It shouldn't have happened. Don't offer them a discount as an apology. Don't say here's 10% off your next order. It's just going to look opportunistic. Leave it at that, and then move on, Jamie. That's really important. Move on. You cannot impact what's happened with email. There are no take backsies. You just have to move on. And I promise you, as with everything, time is the best healer. People do forget about this stuff, and like I said, like even with something as serious as that, like if your jeans brand sent you a Mother's Day email by mistake, that might be incredibly distressing for some people, but like it's probably it's probably not going to ruin their entire year. They'll move on. You need to as well.
Cool. Okay, nice. Yeah, I think when I was first using MailChimp, maybe like 10 years ago or something, I remember before you sent a campaign, I'm pretty sure this isn't the case now. Otherwise, I've just revealed how little client work I do and leave it to the rest of you of the team. When you send a campaign, there used to be like the MailChimp monkey finger that would like hover over a big red button and like shake. And it was like, are you sure you want to send? And I just think, that's like so unhelpful because you already have these like feelings of like trepidation over sending a campaign because you can't take it back, and to add that little image in there was I thought was funny and unhelpful.
Yeah, there's actually a term that's been coined for that called send anxiety, which is like a very real thing for email marketers. Fortunately, I don't really suffer from it, although you might argue unfortunately because I have made the occasional error, as we all have.
You're gonna make the errors about it. You're gonna make the errors whether you feel anxious before or not.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's just how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think that kind of covers what I wanted to talk about and what you wanted to talk about. Should we do a quick hot take?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you had yours preloaded, so do you want to go first?
I had mine, but I'm not going to use it because we've already talked about it. It was about the fact that marketers should intentionally send them.
Sorry, mate.
Should include them in their content calendar. I will instead say my hot take will be subscribe to the Inbox Club's newsletter, because you will almost certainly get an apology email in the next couple of months.
Okay.
And it will be a great demonstration of how to do it.
Okay. Right. One, I write the newsletter. So are you saying that I'm going to make a statement, or are you saying that we're going to schedule a mistake?
No. What I was trying to insult you.
Oh, okay. Right. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My hot take is you're a twat.
8 out of 10.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, your hot take. If you just stuck with your original hot take, which was scheduling a mistake email, I would have given you 8 out of 10 for your hot take. But because I spoiled it by bringing it up in the main body of this episode, you've had to resort to using maybe like a 3 out of 10 hot take.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I have a hot take? I think you should schedule a mistake email once a year. No, I don't have one, so I'm not going to make one up.
No, that's okay. I think we did cover it quite comprehensively in the podcast itself. One thing I would say is that when you made a mistake on one of our newsletters, Jamie, the Inbox Club's newsletter, your follow-up email was how to do a follow-up email, which was genius.
Yeah.
So again, maybe if there's like not that I'm trying to put hot takes into your mouth by any means, but I would just really want to reiterate the opportunity that this gives you. If you're a little bit creative, if you're able to take that step back, give it a little bit of time, let your heartbeat settle, and think, where's the opportunity here? And it's Again, I haven't looked at the stats, but I would assume that follow-up email that you sent was probably one of the most well received. I remember getting replies from it being like, you guys must have done this on purpose, this is great. That is the power of it. You actually get replies sometimes from a good follow-up email. I
think you might have helped me write that email, or at least
possibly,
or at least come up with a strategy. I can't remember. I think it was definitely your idea.
Hey, we're one and the same, Jamie.
Yeah,
it's the Inbox Club's idea.
True. Thanks, mate. Okay, I think that does us for today. Sorry there was no guest. Sorry we had a cheap lookalike Adam Faulkner today in James. Hopefully you found this episode interesting. Give us 5 stars if you're if you're listening on Spotify. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Over and out.
Over and out.
Cheers, guys.
See you next week. Bye.